Should relationships be monogamous or not? Today's episode. So friends, where did this idea come from that we're supposed to have one person for life? Is monogamy natural? Or is it just something we've been told we need? Let's be real. Why does love have to fit into one box? Well, buckle up, because today we're breaking down the origins of monogamous relationships. And it might leave you asking yourself the question, should relationships even be monogamous? Either way, we're going to explore this topic in two different parts. The first part, we're going to cover the origin and the history of how monogamy was even created or thought of. Then we're going to talk about the pros and the cons. And then we're going to jump into a little bit of why are relationships important? Are we being brainwashed? And what were you taught about relationships as a child? Tip of the day, and then we're going to wrap it on up. Hello, namaste, my baby. All right, my beautiful people, welcome back to Hello Vibes Meet Elevation Podcast with thought-provoking talk with Crystal Jackson, your host. This is the place where we dive deep, ask the hard questions, and maybe change a few minds along the way. Today's topic is monogamy. Is it the only way, or are there other ways to love and connect that make just as much sense? Anyways, get ready, because this one is going to stir up some thoughts. Let's go. Let's go. Monogamy is something that most of us grow up believing is just normal, right? I mean, it's everywhere. Movies, songs, even fairy tales. They teach us that love means finding the one. But guys, how did we even get here? Where did this belief come from? Well, my friends, it turns out that the concept of monogamous relationships has strong ancient roots. Some say going back to Roman times or even earlier. Here's the kicker. It wasn't always about love, guys. It was more about, power, money, children. See, the Roman leaders, they promoted monogamous relationships to create stable families. They wanted stable family units. They were ensuring wealth and inheritance, and they wanted to make sure it stayed within the family line. Then Christianity doubled down, okay? They doubled down on the idea of turning monogamy into a moral obligation, which, if you didn't know, it is illegal. Polygamy is illegal in all states. But if we look even deeper, we see that many cultures before this, like the ancient Mesopotamians, Greeks, or even the Egyptians, they practiced polygamy. So monogamy isn't really as natural or universal as we might think. And see, the crazy part, guys, is even though the Roman society promoted monogamy as like a thing, they were having extramarital affairs, and it was common throughout society. It was accepted, especially for men. I guess over time, after it was pushed by Christianity, it deeply was embedded in Western culture as a norm. So it was like no longer just a arrangement. It became tied to love, emotions, as opposed to just a business agreement. Really not just love, if you think about it. It was tied to things like spirituality, values, property rights, social stability. However, other societies like the indigenous cultures, they continue to view polygamy and non-monogamous as a normal form of relationships. So this kind of illustrates how relationship models vary greatly by culture and context. However, today's modern view of monogamy are more diverse. Some couples practice consensual non-monogamy or some polygamous relationships. And this is kind of reflecting the idea that monogamy is more of a choice than a necessity in today's world. However, it's still illegal. So, the question is, does monogamy still fit today's modern relationships, or are we trying to hold on to something that no longer serves us? Let's talk about it. The pros and cons of monogamous relationships. So guys, here are some pros and some cons. Pro, emotional security. Another one, simplifies life structure. Another one, reduces jealousy or competition. Let's talk about some cons. Unrealistic expectations, lack of exploration, and social stigma for alternatives. Okay, so when we're talking about emotional security, this is a pro for monogamy. One of the arguments with that is it offers emotional security, deep trust, and stability, especially for raising children. Many argue that it allows for a deeper connection because both partners can focus entirely on one another. It also offers simplicity. One person to share your life with no juggling, multiple partners, or expectations. What do we think about that? Simplifying life structures. I guess the argument here, the pro here, is monogamy aligns with social expectations, legal framework, and can simplify commitments, again, like raising children, financial obligations, building, things like that. And then we got the reducing jealousy or competition. So some people find that it helps prevent feelings of jealousy or anxiety about their partner's connection. When we look at the cons, we were saying the unrealistic expectations, right? So some argue that monogamy is unnatural. This is the con. In fact, studies show that even among animals, strict monogamy is rare. And human beings. We change, we grow, we evolve, right? So asking someone to meet all of our emotional, spiritual, and physical needs for decades can feel overwhelming. Non-monogamous arrangements like polygamous or open relationships, they offer people a chance to love without limits. What's your thoughts on that? Or what about lack of explorations? Where some people argue that non-monogamy allows people to grow emotionally by learning from multiple connections. Then we had the social stigma, where individuals practicing polygamous or non-traditional relationships, they often face judgment, even though monogamy isn't a perfect fit for everyone. So those are some of the pros and cons. It's not me saying it, it's what the pros and cons are. Why are relationships important, and what is love? Relationships. Now, whether they are monogamous or not, they offer companionship. They offer growth and a sense of belonging. But what is love? Love is often defined by what we were taught as children. Some people see love as unconditional support, while others see it and view it as partnership. And how we define love usually reflects the relationship we witnessed growing up, healthy or not. So when we talk about the importance of relationships, you have to think, without relationships, do we even know who we are? relationships, you grow through relationships. You test your boundaries, your loyalty, your honesty through relationships. You learn who you are through relationships, because honestly, the relationship you're in, it mirrors who you are, and it brings up uncomfortable feelings, comfortable feelings as well. When relationships don't work out, it shows us what we need to do to grow, or how we can be better as a person. So relationships does teach us a lot. But what about committed relationships? How important are they? I would say they are pretty important, because again, it tests your loyalty, your boundaries, and it tests who you are. And the way you love, or the way you receive or give love, is simply based off of how you grew up, your environment, what you were taught. So relationships doesn't always have to be intimate. I'm just talking about relationships in general. They are very important and essential to growing and understanding who you are. Now let's take it another step farther. So when we talk about relationships, committed relationships, love, is it fair to assume that everyone should be committed to one person for life? Is it for everybody? I mean, we're all different, right? We all love different. We all see love as something different. We all view, value, and experience relationships different. So what about that person that gets into that committed relationship and realize, oh, this is not who I am? You know, are they wrong? Are they right? I don't know. I'm asking y'all. It's just some stuff to think about. What do you think? Which leads us to part 3. Are we brainwashed to believe relationships are essential? Society bombards us with this message that relationships are necessary. And when I say that, I'm talking about committed ones. Fairy tales, romantic comedies, even social norms encourage us to find the one. But not everyone thrives in relationships. Some people are happy single or in unconventional partnerships. The truth is, relationships are deeply personal and no one path fits all. Again, now this is all some stuff to think about, because it's all leading to the part 2 of this episode. Again, I'm just asking the question, something to think about. Like, people get into relationships, and then again, we go back to the cheating. Cheating comes into play simply because this person is probably not cut out for a committed relationship. It's a lack of communication, so they don't understand or know how or even want to communicate this with their partner, because their partner has a completely different view on relationships. And I know what some might say, if you love someone, you're not going to cheat on them. Or, you know how it goes. But then we go back to, what is love for that person? You know, maybe that person does know how to love and be with other people. You are yourself. You're not the other person. You know, we spend a lot of time criticizing and ridiculing other people for their beliefs and what they think and how they feel and how they interact. But the truth is, it goes back to my cheating episode and all my other episodes. Know who you're dealing with. You know, if you don't want to be in a committed relationship and you prefer a variety, then make sure you get somebody on that same page. So, of course, the society norm is monogamy. People are going to ridicule, criticize, but it doesn't matter. You can't please everybody. It At this point, it's just about making yourself happy. It's my thoughts on it. What makes you happy? This whole thing about the Roman Catholics and, making this monogamy a tradition and then putting it in the law and everything. And then now it's like, are we brainwashed? Really, is this how it's supposed to be? Are we brainwashed based off of what the Romans wanted, based off of what was best for them? And again, this is just something to think about. When we get into the second part of this episode, I'll speak more on my thoughts and my opinions. But this episode is just kind of get you thinking. I want to see what you think, or just giving you a rundown of what society thinks or what it's like, So now I want to move on to part 4. What were you taught about relationships as a child? Back in the days when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore, but sometimes I said I wish I was a kid again. If you know, you know. So anyways, my friends, think back to your childhood. What were you taught about love? Did you grow up believing that relationships were forever? Or did you see relationships end and evolve? Why do I ask this? Because our experiences shape the way we view love and connections today. For some of us, love was modeled as commitment and loyalty. For others, it was more about control or survival. And that influences how we approach relationship as adults. So again, the question is, what do you think a relationship should be like? What is it about? How do you deal with them? What were you taught as a child? What do you remember seeing? And even with that in mind, once you were able to actually experience life on your own, did it change your view of relationships and what they should be like? Well, the next part, that's the next episode. It's going to be part 2 of this. It's going to be a lot to break down to get into. This episode, I would like you guys to leave here with a little bit, remembering a little bit of the facts or the history of how monogamous relationships came about, the pros and the cons, why are relationships important, what is love, are we brainwashed to believe relationships are essential, and what we're taught about relationships as children. All right. So I'm just waiting on you guys. It's your turn. Do you think monogamy is the way to go? Or do you think love can work in other ways? What message did you receive about love growing up? And are those beliefs still serving you today? Something to think about. And now we are moving on to tip of the day. No, I'm just joking, okay? Today's tip is simple. Get to know yourself before jumping into any relationship. Ask yourself what you truly need and want. Are you someone who thrives in deep one-on-one connections? Or do you feel love isn't meant to be confined to one person? Understanding yourself and being honest about your desires will save you and your partner a lot of heartache in the long run. Believe that. So my friends, there it is, monogamy broken down. We've explored its history and question if it's really the way we want to love. In part 2, no, I'm just kidding. In part 2 though, we're going to tackle Even tougher questions, like can we realistically expect one person to meet all of our needs for a lifetime? And if not, what's the alternative? So don't forget to join the conversation in the comments. You can get at me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. You can get at me on social media. Either way, I'm going to hear your thoughts. What kind of relationship works best for you? And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend or leave a review. Let's keep the conversation going. And of course, I'm going to have to close out with the mantra, but not before telling you to remember. Protect your energy like the Secret Service protect the president, not John F. K. Your energy is expensive. Be mindful how you spend it. And make sure to support your girl. Go check out www.inspirevibrations.com and get you some jewelry. I make handmade jewelry, custom-made jewelry. I have a bunch of earrings up there. Go check me out. All right. Again, creations by us, www.inspirevibrations.com, and make sure to subscribe so you can get the most updated news, discounts, all type of stuff. Now I'm going to close out with the mantra. Remember, there's no right or wrong way to love. The key is finding what works for you and living that truth unapologetically. Namaste.